Uh, well, this has been a weird season so far. For sure. Not gonna lie. Haven't posted on this channel since before the season started. My last video was, I believe, going over that Freddie Peralta was named the opening day starter. That was a while ago now. It is May 22nd at the time of recording, and the Mets season has been, the obvious comparison is a roller coaster, but I don't even know if that's a good comparison, because it was kind of like up for like a day or two, and then crashed so far that it went below the surface of the earth, and then started creeping up little by little before jolting up a little bit and then going down, and then I don't even know. So since last I recorded on this channel, the Mets lost 12 or 13 games in a row and then came back. Soto got hurt, Lindor got hurt. There was a lot going on. So let's go through it a little bit. I do want to talk about first what's happening right now currently, because this past week has been kind of uplifting, and then kind of like the roller coaster took a bad turn off of the tracks for a second there and then got back on. Not really sure. So after that whole long losing streak thing, the Mets started to sprinkle in wins here and there, but they still weren't a good team. And then we start to like win a couple series and stuff, in like Colorado and stuff. Then we go to Arizona. The Friday game is like fine, but then the Saturday and Sunday game, it's like, okay, we're back to the 13 losing streak team. And then we come home and like turn our season around. If not for that last homestand, I really do think that all hope would be lost for the Mets. But no, the Tigers came into town and they took care of them. What was really good to see was the fact that they took advantage of the Tigers' mistakes. Whenever the Tigers made an error, it seemed like the Mets would score later that inning, which is what good baseball teams are supposed to do, so that was nice. But yeah, they swept the Tigers, and they had a nice jolt of youthful energy with A.J. Ewing being called up. Carson Bench has started to hit better. And overall, it was just really exciting. And then they went and played the Yankees, and boy, the Friday game, not sure if anyone really watched it since it was on Apple TV. MLB, we gotta do something about that. We can't keep having Friday night games on Apple TV. It's really stupid. Nevertheless, they lost that game, and they were like, oh, we were all like, okay. So we just swept a series and then went back down into the basement. But then we won the next two games, and pretty decent ones. The Saturday game was pretty odd with how it started. The Mets got 2 runs on a wild pitch and error from Carlos Rodon, but then Luke Weaver, my goodness, best outing of as a Met by far. He was unbelievable in that one. And then the next day, when it looked like we're going to lose another Subway Series to the Yankees, Tyron Taylor comes through bottom of the 9th inning, 2 outs, game-tying 3-run home run, and then Aaron Boone just thought that 5 infielders would be a good idea, and Max Schumann and Anthony Volpe ran right into each other, so Carson Bench was able to walk it off for the second time in a week. So things were looking up, especially after that Monday game against the Nationals where they scored 10 runs in the 12th inning. It was starting to get exciting, and then we lost 2 games in a row. I don't even know what to say about this team, because for a second there, after that win on Monday, I think we were 5 or 6 games below 500. I think it was 5. And I look at our record, and I'm like, oh, we're only 5 games under 500. That's like something you can actually come back from. And obviously, we're nowhere near contention for anything right now. But still, it was looking like maybe if the Mets got some of their guys back, got Lindor back from injury, Bichette started to hit, if all of the pieces fell into place, it wouldn't be the most improbable thing to start playing better baseball and maybe be in contention for the playoffs in the second half of the season. But then those 2 games against the Nationals were weird. I do want to talk about the youthful energy that seems to be sparking the Mets right now. Carson Bench is starting to hit better than he was in the early go of it, and that's a good sign. Juan Soto is starting to heat up. Obviously, he's not really a younger guy, but he's still on the younger side. He's a superstar that the Mets need to produce. And he's been hitting great over the last few days. AJ Ewing in his major league debut looked really good, and then has looked decent after that. Nick Morabito just called up and had a whole drama with what number he was wearing on his back, which was stupid. Zach Thornton came up. And then just today, the Mets announced that Jonah Tong was going to be back in the major leagues. Now, at the time I'm recording this, it's around 3:40 in the afternoon on Friday, so we just got the lineup card for tonight's game. And so I do want to go through this for a second just to say something about each guy in there. Just because I think that would be a nice way of organizing it. I really like Benj in the leadoff spot. I think he has looked really good there so far. I am a little concerned to the point where obviously I want Lindor back, but when Lindor is back from injury, where do you bat Benj? Because he's definitely not a cleanup hitter. He has power, but not that much power. I don't see him as a 2-hitter. That doesn't make much sense to me. A 3-hitter, then you're pushing either Bichette or Soto out of the top 3 in the order. So I don't really know where Benj is going to hit when Lindor comes back. I guess the thing that would make the most sense is 9th, but with Alvarez hurt, you can't really afford to have your catcher too high in the order because Luis Torrens, as much as I love him, not the best offensive catcher in baseball, and Hayden Sanger can't hit a beach ball if you threw it at him. So I don't really know how they're going to go with that, but for now, while Lindor is out, I do really like Benj in the leadoff spot. He's been starting to heat up there, which is really nice to see after a slow start to his career. David Stearns stuck it out, and did he have much of a choice because everyone on our team was getting injured? No, but hey, if that's all it took to get Carson Benj going, then I guess I'm okay with it in the short run. Bo Bichette has started to hit, and I literally just said earlier, and I'm going to repeat it again, JD Martinez is a wizard. He came to the Mets in 2024, obviously, and even though he wasn't very good at the plate, he finished the season with a terrible stretch that led to him not playing much in the playoffs. He really was a good clubhouse leader, and I think he as more time goes on, I don't think that players-only meeting was what we thought it was, because obviously Lindor's hurt right now, so he's not in the clubhouse every single day, but even when he was earlier on in the season, from that, I don't think Lindor is this unbelievable leader that we viewed him to be, and so I think some of the success that Mets had in 2024, I think it has to be credited to JD Martinez partially, because even though he wasn't hitting, he kind of helped out that clubhouse along with Jose Iglesias, of course, and he helped Mark Vientos learn how to hit at the major league level, which was awesome. And then, what do you know? Mets bring him in. He's not in the clubhouse anymore, but he's in a front office role, and so he's around the team. You bring him in, Mark Vientos, after a horrid spring training, starts to hit much better over these last few weeks. And Bo Bichette, who was not with JD at all in 2024, obviously. Bichette was still on the Blue Jays, but Bo Bichette has started to hit. I think he has... How many home runs did he have in this series? 3? So if he had 3 home runs in the series, I think he has now 5 home runs on the year, and 4 of them are against the Nationals. So maybe he's just a Nationals killer, which wouldn't disappoint me at all. But nevertheless, since JD Martinez talked to Bo before that series against the Yankees, he's been taking what I feel is better at bats, and he looks much more comfortable at the plate, and I just feel like he's hitting much better overall. So if he can keep that up, that would be huge for this Mets team. For the Mets to go on a run and maybe make something happen this year, they need Bo Bichette to play like the guy they signed. And I'm taking that quote from Bo himself. He said, every night, I'm thinking about, I want to be the player the Mets signed for $43 million, and you should be, because that's a lot of money. But anyway, that's who they need to have in their lineup. Number 3 hitter tonight is Juan Soto. He's DHing a lot more, which I'm not mad about, but I hope he's not mad about more than anything. He's been hitting really good over the last few days. He just kills his old team, the Washington Nationals, which is kind of funny. But he's been really, really good over the last, week and a half or so. Let's hope he can keep that up in Miami this weekend. But the thing with the DH kind of concerns me, because with A.J. Ewing being called up and Carson Bench playing pretty much every day, Nick Morabito being called up and Mendoza wants to mix him in, Tyrone Taylor still is getting playing time because he's a very good defensive outfielder and isn't really as much of a liability at the plate this year. That kind of leaves Soto as the odd man out in terms of the defensive alignment, and that throws him into the DH spot because he's not the best defensive outfielder. And Soto did not sign up for 15 years of DHing for the New York Mets. Obviously, he played the outfield last year, but if he doesn't want to DH, he doesn't have to DH every day. DH him sometimes, of course, because it's a better defensive move for this team, but you have to focus, other than winning games, your number one priority should be keeping your best players happy. That's Soto, that's Lindor, that's Bichette if he's playing well, that's some of the other guys that are the old baby Mets if they start to produce even more than they already are. You have to make sure they are happy being Mets, because that will help improve their performance. So, if Soto should speak his mind. If he comes up to Mendy and is like, I'm good to do whatever we need for this team to win, keep DHing him. If he says, I think I should be playing the outfield more, mix him in the outfield every once in a while. Maybe you can do a game of him in an outfield every series, and then you can DH him the rest of the series. Something like that. Anyway, Mark Vientos is now playing first base every single day for the New York Mets. Now, I was at Citi Field a couple weeks ago. I forgot when it was. And I looked up at the scoreboard, and I was like, if you showed this to me, this lineup, in 2024, or even last year, I would be like, what in the world is this? I would have so many questions. First of all, where is Lindor? Where is Pete Alonso? Who in the world is AJ Ewing? Who is Carson Bench? Nick Morabito? I thought he was in low A. Luis Torrens is catching, I guess that makes sense. Why is Marcus Semien there? Where's Brandon Nimmo? Where's Jeff McNeil? Is that Bo Bichette or some other Bichette? I can keep going on, but, the amount of lineup change this team has had is unbelievable over the course of the past year, and everyone knew that coming into the season, but it is truly crazy. Anyway, Mark Vientos playing first base for the New York Mets every day. Okay, I would rather have Pete over there, but at least he's hitting. I remember a couple years ago, I don't remember how old I was, but it was the year that Beatty and Alvarez and Vientos all got called up and had a cup of coffee with the Mets at the end of the season. It was 2022. And all we really knew about them was their prospect status because we hadn't seen them do anything at the major league level yet. And so I created a graphic on something maybe PowerPoint or something, I don't know. And I referenced an old Sports Illustrated article from the mid-2000s where it referred to the Mets infield. It's the best infield ever with Edgardo Alfonso and David Wright and all of those guys. And I had Pete Alonso at first base with, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, it was Ronnie Mauricio at second, Lindor at short, Brett Baty at third, and Mark Vientos DHing. And I wrote on the top of that, kind of graphic before I knew how to design anything, the new best infield ever. I did not expect Ronnie Mauricio to get hurt multiple times, which delayed his development and not be very good. I didn't expect for the Mets to sign Bo Bichette. I didn't expect Pete Alonso to leave. I guess Jeff McNeil wasn't in there. But anyway, Mark Vientos, I thought, was going to be the Mets DH of the future. When the universal DH got added, I was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. Brett Baty can play third, because I was obsessed with these guys when they were prospects. And I still like them, but I was crazy into them. I was like, Brett Baty can play third base with Lindor at short, and then we can transition Mauricio to second base, and then Vientos can just DH every day because Alonso will be at first. That's perfect. I love it. And I do miss Pete Alonso a lot. I loved him as a Met, and I do want him to succeed in Baltimore, but the fact that Vientos is hitting the way he is right now, and it's not 2024 Mark Vientos, but it's pretty close. It is a lot closer than 2025 Mark Vientos was to 2024. So if he can continue hitting like this, I won't be as mad with David Stearns getting rid of Pete Alonso. I will always be mad at Stearns for that. But if Vientos can continue to hit, that might scratch that itch a little bit. In that same vein, Brett Baty hitting fifth, playing third base. I love Baty at third base. When we signed Bichette and they said that he was going to play third base, I was like, but what about Baty? Where's Baty going to go? Because I've always loved Brett Baty. I feel like he's a super nice, down-to-earth guy. And he did really well at third base for the Mets last year. He got sent down in the early run of the season. He was not very good to start the season. But then when the Mets called him back up, he was pretty good for them. And he just played the rest of the year there, playing third base pretty much every day. He got much better defensively over there at third. And so now, obviously, Lindor's injury opened the floodgates for everything. But when Lindor out, you move Bichette to short, and Baty to third. And Baty looks comfortable over there, which is really good to see. Marcus Semien is kind of the guy that screws everything up, though. Ideally, I would like to have, and you could do Bichette at third and Baty at second, but I think the best move for this Mets team and infield once Francisco Lindor comes back is you move Bichette to second base where he played in the World Series last year. You have Lindor at short, you play Baty at third base every single day, and that, I think, is the best thing for this team, because Marcus Semien, he's been good defensively, but the whole selling point for trading for him for Brandon Nimmo was that we could get elite defense at second base with a guy who could maybe swing a little bit still. He hasn't been doing either of those things, so I think, and I don't know what Mendy will do, I doubt Mendy will want to bench Marcus Semien, but I think once Lindor comes back, every single day, you should have Bo Bichette at second base, Brett Baty at third, Lindor at short, with Semien on the bench. You eat the money, you try and get rid of him in the offseason, and if you don't, you keep him for next year. And then if, say, Bichette needs a day off, you move Baty to, put Semien at second base, and then if Baty needs a day off, Bichette can play third for a day, and Semien can play, and then they could just mix it around. They would still get Semien at bats, but I don't think he's a guy who should be starting every single day for this team once Lindor gets back. Number 7 hitter is AJ Ewing. I said to one of my friends after his Major League debut, that's awesome, but I'm not buying in yet, because Carson Bench on opening day also had a really fun debut. Now, he didn't have 3 walks and a triple plus a 100-mile-an-hour plus fly ball to the warning track, but he did hit a home run and it got a lot of people excited, and then he wasn't good for like a month and a half before he started to turn it on. AJ Ewing has been pretty decent to start his Major League career. he did make an error, which was scored a hit, but it was an error in Washington yesterday when Devin Williams was in the game. But I think we should just keep playing him. I know he's young and he doesn't have much AAA experience, but I can't justify putting him back in Syracuse after only a week or so at the major league level, because it's Major League Baseball. It's a hard game to play. And so you have to just keep playing him and hope it works out, which eventually I'm sure he will figure it out. Nick Morabito is hitting eighth. Get it? Funny. 8. That whole drama was so stupid. I get Gary Carter was very important to this franchise, but it's a jersey number. Whatever, he's 55 now, problem takes care of itself. But I'm excited to see what Morabito can do. I believe he's only played one game since he got called up, which was his Major League debut because he didn't play on Thursday. And he's never going to be a guy to give you much power, but like Ewing, he has great speed. We saw him make a really nice play reaching over the railing in left field in Washington. So he'll be mixed in for sure. And I like that the Mets keep calling up guys, including Zach Thornton, who wasn't terrible once he settled down in his Major League debut. And then Luis Torrens hitting 9th. Obviously, I want that to be Alvarez, but he tore his meniscus, so it's kind of hard to play baseball with torn meniscus. Luis Torrens is still the best backup catcher in baseball, though, so I'm totally okay with him being the main guy while Alvarez is out. And then Tobias Myers is starting tonight for the New York Mets. And here I want to bring something up. There was talk about Jonah Tong potentially making this start tonight just to give everyone an extra day. And the thought behind it was you call up Tong and send down a reliever. Tong makes this one start to push the rotation back a day in this stretch where you don't have many days off. And then after that, he goes back down to Syracuse and continues to develop. So instead, Tobias Myers is starting this game, but they still called up Jonah Tong. And they already have their probable set for the rest of the series. And I believe they do have an off day on Monday. So what is Jonah Tong being used for? Because they DFA'd Craig Kimbrell. So is Tong going to be in the rotation, or is he going to be in the bullpen? I honestly can't figure it out. I did just look. They don't have an off day on Monday. They have one on Thursday. But still, I don't really know what Tong's role is going to be, because he hasn't looked great in AAA to start the year, and I'm sure he'll be able to figure out, but still, if you can't figure it out in AAA, you probably shouldn't be trying to figure it out in the major leagues. Not the best way to go, in my personal opinion. But if you wanted to get rid of Craig Kimbrell, which clearly they did because they DFA'd him, why didn't you just bring up a reliever? Because you have Myers going tonight, and who knows how long he can go. Maybe they'll do like a piggyback situation of Myers and then Tong. But you have Tobias Myers pitching tonight. Tomorrow in Miami, you have probably going to be... Who would that be? Sorry, it would probably be... Not McLean. What's his name? Oh. I'm sorry, you'll have someone going tomorrow for you, and then I believe Sunday is Freddie Peralta Day, or maybe that's tomorrow, maybe that's what I'm stumbling on. Mets haven't announced their official starters yet for the series, but with Tong coming up, I'd have to imagine he's going to get at least a start, because if you're David Stearns, I don't think you want your number one pitching prospect, who's also had some success at the major league level. Not a ton, but some. I don't think you want him being a bullpen arm in the major leagues where he's only going to pitch short amounts sometimes, or he'll be a long reliever where he pitches like 4 innings at most, instead of him just being in AAA and getting his starts. Plus, if you don't call him up this year, he doesn't lose that minor league option, and then you have another year of Tong where you can freely option him. They called him up already, so he just lost his second minor league option. That means next year if he were to go down and up at all. Next year would be the last year he could freely move between the major and minor leagues, but I just don't understand the promotion. It's nice that now on this team we have Carson Bench, rookie, Nick Morabito is a rookie, AJ Ewing is a rookie, Zach Thornton just made his major league debut, he's a rookie, Noel McLean still has rookie status, and now you have Tong. That's 6 guys on your major league roster who are rookies and who are all in your top 15 prospects, so they're not like, oh, this guy just got called up for the first time, let's see what he can do, he's been in AAA forever. These are legitimate prospects, and so the youthful movement is fun, but I really don't know what the use for calling up Jonah Tong is, but I guess we'll see. Ideally, we're taking 2 out of 3, or 3 out of 4 in every series for the foreseeable future. Obviously, that's the goal for every team. But if the Mets want to maybe make something happen in the second part of this year, it starts with winning the series against the Marlins. Then you have to go home and at least have a winning homestand against the Cincinnati Reds as well as the Miami Marlins once again. And then once you go out west, if you're able to have that winning homestand, that gives you a little bit of wiggle room to start the month of June out west. But they have to play well for sure. So that's basically all I have to say. I kind of just wanted to come on here and talk about everything that's happening in Metsland because it's a lot and it's crazy. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. Follow me on Instagram at AroundTheDiamond2 to see all the stuff I post over there. And of course, subscribe to the main channel, Around the Diamond, on YouTube. The link's in the channel bio. It'll be in the description too. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching and I guess listening to my talking to myself about the Mets, basically. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.